Okay, you want me to start?
Go ahead.
Okay, a couple introductory remarks. I've been to Sarajevo twice, once in 1988, the other in 2010, so my experience is somewhat dated, 14 years. Some things may have changed. 1988 was a very brief visit. I was on my own, violating a lot of rules about traveling through a communist country in a rented Yugo, and everything you ever heard about the Yugo is wrong. It's worse. Uh, 2010, I was in a guided tour, which worked out much better. And while researching this, I have run into a lot of frustrations with conflicting information, like sources that can't agree on a particular date. Uh, very frustrating. Um, in Sarajevo, English did not get you too far except in the hotels and restaurants. German proved very useful, especially with the cab drivers who didn't speak English. If you told the cab driver Hotel Holiday Inn, that's no problem. But if you want to go somewhere else, you best know how to say it in German. In my training, I was forced to learn the Cyrillic alphabet, which did come in handy a few times. And I noticed some similarities with the little bit of Russian that I know. For example, the Russian word Yug means south, so Yugoslavia, South Slavs. Okay, let's go on to the next screen. And I'm seeing my screen, not yours. Ah, there we go. Okay, the logos in the upper corners, uh, Sarajevo City Seal. At the top, the mountains. In the middle, the medieval fortifications. And at the bottom, the Latin Bridge. Let's go to the next. And I'm not sure whose screen we're seeing. I'm seeing the Latin Bridge. Are you?
Yep, that's what we're seeing.
Okay, good. Latin Bridge will play prominently in this presentation. Over on the left side is the Catholic side, and the bridge connects it to the predominantly Muslim side over on the right side of the screen. My guess is Latin refers to the Roman Catholic Church. Okay, let's go to the next. Okay, the Black Hand uh, was formed in 1901 as the Black Hand Society, was renamed Unification or Death in 1911. And its goal was the liberation of Austro-Hungarian South Slavs from into a Yugoslavia and the unification of ethnic Serb territories. The Black Hand is you notice the flag, a skull and crossbone, and over to the left side, a bottle of poison, a dagger, and a bomb. This was a full-blown professional terrorist organization. You do not want to upset these people because they will kill you. They trained and equipped the Sarajevo assassins who were just absolute rank amateurs. Okay, let's go on next. What I like to call the Third Balkan War, possibly plural, since there were some minor conflicts along with the major one. My 2010 visit, this is a good 11 years after the major fighting. Signs of conflict were everywhere, burnt out buildings. Over on the right side, you see a school memorial plaques. My wife and I walked by a school, and I presume these were people, graduates of the school, who died in the fighting. And we now have the term ethnic cleansing in our vocabulary. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, Principal Three Red Arrows, Chabrinovich, who threw his bomb, first attempt by the assassins. Princip, standing by the Latin Bridge, which you see there, and the City Hall, which was the destination of the Archduke's motorcade. The blue arrow, let's go to the next screen. This is the Appel Quai. This is an assassin's delight, a very narrow street with very few escape routes. Uh, Also, that means very few escape routes for the assassins who had no intention of being taken alive. After Chabrinovich threw his bomb, he swallowed some poison, which just made him sick, and he jumped into the river in the hopes of drowning himself. The only way you're going to drown in this river is to stand on your head. Next screen. Here's the lineup of the assassins. Okay, let's move on. Now, the red arrow, which I've added to a period photograph, shows where Chernobych's bomb landed. And in the photo below it, you'll notice a building over on the left side with a fancy roof, and the one next to it with some balconies. Let's go to the next screen. Okay, the yellow building has the fancy roof, and next to it, the building with the balconies. Very easy to locate, and the red explosion mark is about where his bomb would have landed on the street. I looked extensively to see if there was any kind of marker during my 2010 visit, but I could not find anything. Next. Okay, Princip's initial position was adjacent to the Latin Bridge. A lot of authors have said that he lost his nerve, but I disagree with that. His bomb, or hand grenade as we would call it today, had a 12-second fuse, which is far too long against a moving target. Over on the left side is my wife. Next. Once again, learning more about World War I than she ever wanted to know. She drags me through art museums in retaliation. Okay, next screen. This was the City Hall in 1914. It became the library at some date. And the red arrow, the motorcade would have come up to about where I'm standing and made a U-turn and driven up to the main entrance indicated by the red arrow. Next. Here's what it looked like when the Serbs got through with it. As our tour guide pointed out, this this building had no military value whatsoever. It was a cultural thing. And let's go next. There we go. I'll let you read this sign. Okay, next. This was the bridge at Mostar, a UN cultural thing. Again, no military value whatsoever. When our tour group got to Serbia next, the Serbs never missed an opportunity to tell us how unfair it was for NATO to bomb them, but nobody else. They did not get a lot of sympathy from our group. Okay, next. The Archduke has shown here is completing his visit to the City Hall. The various dignitaries on the front steps. Seated to his right in the place of honor is the Duchess. She was, all the photos of that day show her seated to his right in the place of honor, some payback for the snobbery of the Habsburgs because he had married a commoner. She was a Duchess, just not royal enough for the Habsburgs. On the left running board is the Archduke's bodyguard to act as a potential shield against any more bomb attempts from that side. Okay, next. uh, Archduke's vehicle was number 3 and last in the motorcade. He had changed his mind about visiting the city museum, and he wanted to go to the hospital to visit the people injured in Chernobych's bomb attempt. But somebody neglected to tell his driver. So the first 2 vehicles made the right turn as they were briefed to do. And I'd seen this picture before and knew it was the last picture of the royal pair before they were murdered. But if you look at the right front wheels, what I didn't realize until I started this presentation was the vehicle is actually making the turn. Look at the wheels, turn slightly to the right. Over to the left is a small tree, and next is a Twirly grape beverage advertisement. Next slide, please. And over on the right is the small tree and the Twirly grape beverage. The red arrow points to the spot where the vehicle stopped. Governor Podiorik was in the vehicle and he yelled at the driver to stop. The driver did, right in front of Princip. So there, Morris Schiller's Cafe. We'll come back to that again. Let's go on. Next, please. Okay, after the two were shot, the driver backed up, ran across the Latin Bridge over to the Konak, the governor's mansion. My wife and I walked around the outside wall of the building looking for a spot for a photograph and could not find one, so I listed this one off the internet. Next. And here they are in their deathbeds. Again, the Duchess on the Archduke's right. Next, please. There we go. Some of the key sites. Okay, let's move on. In a previous visit to the Czech Republic, our tour bus made an unadvertised and unannounced stop at Theresienstadt, or Terezin, as it's known in Czech Republic. The red arrow on the left, this is a concentration camp memorial. The red arrow to the left, the Star of David, and on the right, a Christian cross with thorns. I did not have time to go look for Princip's cell. Next. So I found this on the internet, and Princip was a bit of a poet, and he scratched the wording on the right into the cell using his spoon. Okay, next. Chapel of I can never pronounce that. Vidovansky's Heroes at St. Mark's. Vidovansky, we get a translation of that, alludes to the feast of St. Vitus, Memorial Day for martyrs killed in the Battle of Kosovo, 28 June 1389, where the Serbs lost their freedom to the Ottoman Empire. So the Archduke's visit on the 28th of June was a bit of a slap in the face to the Serbs. Okay, let's move on. And at the list of names, at the top is Princip, and the next 9 names, 3 rows of 3, are the conspirators who either were executed or died in prison. The bottom name, Zirachik, was a martyr. He had died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound after a botched assassination attempt, and a bit of a hero to the assassins. Missing is Jacinovich, who was poisoned in Switzerland. He was another martyr and inspiration. Let's go on. And in the semicircle near the top of the above the cross is a translation of the semicircular inscription. Now, some problems here. I've read a number of sources that claim there were 12 people buried here. I did pass third grade arithmetic, and I count 11 names, and I counted them 11 times just to be certain. So there's a couple factors in place. Next. What I like to call the tyranny of the printed fact. Once something gets put into print, it is a fact, and it gets repeated endlessly without anybody bothering to find out if it was correct in the first place. Just refuses to die. Next is another possibility is somebody who was arithmetically challenged. 4 out of 3 people don't understand fractions. Okay, let's move on. Location of the cemetery in relation to a couple of landmarks. Next, please. Okay, monument to murder. There's a steel plate in the road, which is now gone. And in the background, you see the twin columns, and at the top with 2 crowns, the symbol of the dual monarchy. Over on the right side of the screen is a blow-up of the figures of the Archduke and the Duchess. And below it, somewhere on this monument, is the inscription, which is below. I've been unable to locate exactly where. Give you a minute to read that. Okay, let's move on. Now, the upper left-hand corner is the first of several markers to commemorate the event. Let's go to the next one. There it is. This went up in 1915, and I'll let you read the translation. Uh, there's a bit of political. These markers have a bit of political bent to them. This is in go back one. Nope. There we go. It's in Serbo-Croatian, but it's in Latin letters, and we'll see some changes here. I'll give you a minute to finish reading that. Okay, let's go next. And the 3rd of February, I have sources that say it was the 2nd of February, but I'm going with the 3rd. A new plaque went up. It was the 15th anniversary of 3 assassins who were hanged. Let's go next. And this plaque was sent to Hitler in 1941 after Germany had conquered Yugoslavia. Let's go next. Next, please. There we go. There's Schicklgruber. Now there again, notice this one is in Cyrillic. Next. Went to the Berlin Arsenal as a war trophy. I've read sources that claimed it went back to Yugoslavia after the war in 1945. However, nobody in Berlin can find any evidence that it was sent there, nor has anybody in Yugoslavia can find it. So whether this plaque still exists and where it is unknown. All right, let's go next. 1945, another plaque went up at the spot. Now, obviously, Princip and his fighters had nothing to do with defeating the Nazis. So things changed in 1953. Next, Tito. And Tito, being a Serb, ruling with an iron hand, Princip now became a national hero instead of a terrorist. The Latin bridge was renamed the Princip Bridge. Let's go to the next. And a new historical marker went up. Now, this is all in Cyrillic lettering. Okay, next. And let's go on to the next one. Here's a sign that went up in 2004, what I'd like to call deserbification. A little taking a slant of de-Stalinization from the Russians. And now the plaque is in Latin letters, and it also includes English. This is the one I saw in 2010. Okay, next. Tito had a couple concrete footprints uh, about where he believed Princip was standing. Actually, I think Princip was out on the street rather on the sidewalk. And the footprints were a popular place for tourists to have their picture taken. Next. That includes myself. Okay, next one. And here we are back at Mars. Here's what it looked like in 1914. Next, it became the Mlada Bosnia Young Bosnia Museum. Young Bosnia was a youth group, again seeking independence from the Austrians, and more of a intellectual than a terrorist group. If let's go to the next slide, please. Uh, you there's Malata Bosnia on the left beneath the figures, and over on the right, I have tried to find a translation for this inscription. I could not find one. On the second line, I could make out Malata Bosnia in the Cyrillic, and the bottom it's 28 June 1953, but I can't make anything else out of it. Uh, Back up one. Yeah, and go back to Schiller's, and you can see the change in the building. Okay, let's go forward again. Quite a change there. Now, let's go one more. One more. And here's what it looked like after it got rebuilt after the fighting. Now, it's now the Sarajevo City Museum, uh, both Serbo-Croatian and English around the corner. And if you look above the word museum, you'll see some spalling from the fighting. And up near the top, there's some more spalling, what looks like a bullet hole. And Schiller's Museum, Schiller's deli has been rebuilt once again. The door, which was on the corner below the word museum, is now over on the left side, and windows have been put up. Okay, let's go. Next one. These are inside the museum. Uh, Princip's footprints have been rebuilt. And this is another good reason to take guided tours. We got into the museum, which normally would have been closed at the time. In our travels, the wife and I have traveled on our own. We've taken guided tours, and we prefer the guided tours because by the time you are renting a car, paying exorbitant prices for gasoline, getting lost, having near instant divorces over navigation, and finding a parking spot, the guided tour works out financially about the same. Just my 2 cents on that. All right, let's go to the next one. This is inside the museum. There's the royal couple again. Next. um, the weaponry, excuse me, the weaponry shows the bomb in the lower right. What I know about grenades, apparently you would smash the cap against something solid like a lamppost or a wall, which would drive a metal spike into a glass vial, releasing acid that would then make its way down to the explosive. 12 seconds on a hand grenade, far too long. All right, next. Okay, let's go to the next one. This is the Vienna Army Museum. Next. That's the Archduke's uniform. Next. You can see where they cut his uniform, apparently in an attempt to revive him, but he was dead, hopeless. Next slide. There's Prince Kip's pistol. Next slide. And I'll just give you a minute or two to read that. And the red arrow I've added shows a bullet hole in the side of the auto. Okay, let's go to the next one. And this is the back of the vehicle, a couple spalling from Chebrinovich's bomb. Excuse me. Next slide. And what a quirk of history. The license plate on the car, A111-118. The numerals of the armistice on the Western Front, 11-11-18. You just could not make this up. What a quirk of history. Okay, let's move on. The Archduke's Castle at Konopiste. It's another slide I Another photo I lifted off the internet because I was standing much too close on the other side of the river to get a good shot of the castle. I had read the bullet that killed the Archduke is on display there. I didn't see it, but I wasn't looking for it because I didn't know it existed during the time of my visit. Next, no photography inside, so I bought some picture postcards. The Archduke was quite a hunter. Some of his hunting trophies, uh, probably numbered in the thousands, and an incredible collection of medieval armor. Uh, Place is worth a visit if you're in the area. Okay, let's move on. And the Imperial Crypt in Vienna. Next. Okay, front and center is Franz Josef. To his right, on the left side, is his wife Elizabeth and his son Rudolph over on the right side, his left. Uh, it was Rudolph's suicide that put Franz Ferdinand in line for the throne. Next, and wife and I paid a visit to Meyerling. The church inside is kind of interesting. Some nice stained glass windows. I don't know how I wound up with some pictures of it because the sign says no photos. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, move on. And back in Vienna, in the Imperial Crypt, this sign. Since he'd married a commoner, the Archduke was denied burial in the Kaisergruft. I will give you a minute to read that. Okay, let's move on. Uh, the Duchess owned a castle out at Archstetten, which is about 50 miles west of Vienna. Let's go to the next slide. Uh, check the hours of its check the hours when it's open. The admonishment at the bottom. My first visit, it was closed, and I'm driving away very disappointed. And I just happened to glance at my rearview mirror, and this is what I saw. So I did wind up with a nice photo. So the visit wasn't a total waste. Let's go next. The castle is a memorial to the royal couple and their lives together. Next. And let's move on. Next. Next. And there's Princip's fingerprint card to the right of his picture. Over on the left of his picture, you'll see some of the damage that was done to the Serbs by the outraged members of Sarajevo. Next, death certificates of the two. Next, this wall is dedicated to the transport of the coffins back to Vienna. Move on. And I'll give you a couple minutes to read this. Okay, let's go. Uh, back at beneath the behind the church is a crypt. Next, and there are the coffins. Based on the layout of the coffins in Vienna, I'm assuming that they're facing the wall, which means the Duchess is to the Archduke's right, once again in the place of honor. Okay, next. All right, the War Memorial for Archstetten is to the west of the town. Next. Next slide. Okay, move on. References. The Road to Sarajevo by Dedier could be subtitled More Than You Ever Wanted to Know About the Events Leading Up to the Assassination. Published in 1966. It's kind of tedious reading, but one of the best sources I found, and perhaps among the most accurate. The middle, Eichelberg's Sarajevo, the Assassination, is where I got most of the period photographs. It's totally in German, but it's an excellent collection of photos, documents, seating arrangements, telegrams. Uh, just a very interesting book. You don't have to understand German to look at it. And over on the right side is something I found just a few days ago, which has some more information about the assassination site and a couple interesting photographs. Okay, next. Did the Serbs get the last word? Uh, this statue of Princip was unveiled one day before the centenary. And over on the right, uh, I don't know if that is a street address or a map grid. I can't figure it out, but apparently it is a valid location. Next. And it's to the east of the Sarajevo airport. And I don't know what the distance is. I could not get an accurate reading on that. And I think that's the last of it. Yep. So I'll try to answer any questions anyone has.
All right, thank you. If anybody has any questions, just unmute and go ahead and ask.
Hi there, can I ask something? Hi, Steve.
Hi, you wanted to ask a question? You just did.
Yeah, I'm yeah, thanks, I did, yeah. Just looking at the car there in the museum. What happened after they were shot? What happened immediately afterwards? You never hear what happened after that.
Well, they were taken to the Konak. I've seen pictures of
Yeah.
the automobile parked there and a black flag hanging from the building. And Schiller's Cafe, Schiller's Deli. Again, there was a black flag over the door. Um, I don't know the exact details, but obviously the car was shipped back to Vienna and put on display in
Hmm.
Archstetten. I still can't get over that license plate, 1111
No,
13.
no, stone, isn't it?
Just incredible.
Hmm.
Steve, that last picture that you took had the last statue. Um, was there significance to that, or just the fact that they actually made it and made a statue of him?
Well, that's the Serbian part of Sarajevo, and I guess they still think of him as a hero.
Okay.
The rest of Sarajevo doesn't. But yeah, I was just kind of fascinated by the various markers that went up between Cyrillic and Latin letters and very political. Um,
What happened on the 100th anniversary of the assassination? Was there anything in Sarajevo to mark it or
yes, I did find some things on YouTube. You can probably do a search for it. And
Hmm.
apparently they had an automobile parked out in the street, and they did have some kind of a ceremony there. Wasn't the YouTube video wasn't very extensive, so I really don't know exactly what went on.
Steve,
But
it's Larry. I will interject. Good to see you again. Really enjoyed the presentation. Even a second time is still interesting. So thank you.
well, thank you, Larry. Larry and I are old college buddies.
Hmm.
You'll get your check in the mail next week.
Old, old is the emphasis. Thank you.
I don't dare ask if they had colleges back then, but
We
Sorry,
had,
Steve.
we had monks reading from manuscripts.
I have to say, Steve he was the second person I took a battlefield tour with after Graham Parker, and that was 1990. So we go a ways back.
We go back much further.
Yep, back
We'll
to the
leave it at that.
1960s. But anyway, I'm glad I made my 1988 visit. Yugoslavia was still communist, and I had security clearances, and they did not want me visiting a communist country unescorted. And I finally found a tour that was going to Dubrovnik with an excursion to Sarajevo. So I signed up for it, got into Dubrovnik, and find out the excursion to Sarajevo didn't start for 2 weeks. So I'm in total despair. Oh my God, this can't be, all this time in trouble, and now I can't go. So I rented the Yugo, and oh my God, that is just a terrible vehicle. Driving through a strange country with a strange automobile with maps of dubious accuracy in a language I didn't speak, just to spend about an hour or so in Sarajevo, but it did give me those photos from 1988, which were good for a comparison. Would I do that again? Probably not. I mean, that was flirting with suicide, really. But yeah, wife and I like guided tours. We just regret we're now too old to travel anymore and spending any more of our children's inheritance.
Steve, just looking at the comments here. Jim Hockenberry had a lead, but he said, "Thanks, Steve. Quite interesting. I have to go, but I want to wish everyone a happy holiday, a wonderful holiday, and a happy and healthy new year." And then Carl Bobro just mentioned that A111 was the military district and 118 was the plate number sequence.
Ah,
On
okay.
the,
Hmm.
so
Hmm.
I did not know that either.
Okay.
Hey, Steve,
Yes.
I might add one thing just to make the Balkans more complicated than they are. You said that Josip Broz was a Serb. Well, he was certainly trying to appeal to them, but in fact, I believe he was a Croat
Oh,
by
okay.
birth. But he wanted to bring them all together into a united Southern Slav republic.
Yeah,
For
and
all the good it did, unfortunately, he was too tough an act to follow, and well, didn't
yeah,
work out.
I think the Serbian army is basically what held everything together.
Exactly. And
And then once
well,
he died, it just kind of fell apart.
yeah, I was one of the inheritors of that. I got to see the bridge in a couple of visits, and while I was doing peacekeeping duty out of Tuzla, 2001 to 2002. So nice to see the place the way it's been worked out since. I
Yeah,
just hope they stop trying to kill each other anymore.
I walked over the bridge in both of my visits. First time to find a restaurant to eat dinner, and the second time as part of a tour group. So yeah, the once once things broke apart, Serbs were no longer heroes in Sarajevo because of the brutality and the ethnic cleansing. Just signs of that the fighting. Just 11 years after it was over, there's still destruction everywhere you looked. Patched up buildings. I saw a tall building with a round hole through it where an artillery shell obviously went through it. Um, really a bit pathetic.
Well, I was there with representatives of 33 other armies just in the American sector, and we were all getting along great, and we were all the time hoping that the locals would get the hint.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what the situation is like today. Been overshadowed by events in Ukraine and the Middle East, which is July 1914 all over again in both locations.
Yeah, some things, more they change, the more they remain the same. Except in the UN, where it's only considered genocide if it's done by Israelis.
Yeah, let's not get into that. We could. I'm glad. I'm just glad I'm retired because Israel is one of the countries I used to work. So,
Okay.
glad I'm retired. Somebody else can save the world. They don't need me.
May I ask a question?
Yeah, Billy, go ahead.
Great. How does Sarajevo museums present the story of the Black Hand and the role of Princip?
Uh, from what I recall, basically just artifacts, his clothing, pictures of the weaponry, the indictment. Um, they don't really get into the Black Hand per se, if I remember that correctly. And basically, the museum now is just basically covering the city's history while it was under Austro-Hungarian rule.
Thank you. Thank you for speaking today. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Good, because I'm out of answers.
Yeah. I did want to show one thing. If you can see this, for my birthday last spring, my wife found from somebody in Australia a piece of aluminum from the L-33 that came down over England in 1916 that had been turned into a little Zeppelin pin. And for Christmas, we had it framed. So this is in my office now. So that's the L-33, a photograph of it, just an artist conception what it looked like in the control cupola, an artist conception of their last raid over London, and then a picture of it caught on fire after it crashed and burned, and the locals all got as many souvenirs as they could before the British military showed up. But if you know, I'm good friends with Steve Sotheby. I've known him for many years now. We used to work together. And I sent him a picture of this, and he was like, "Oh, this is great." You know, if you know Steve, you know he is he's one of the experts on Zeppelin. So he was pretty enthused. But I wanted to show it off. It was a nice surprise for my wife that she found that for me.
Yeah, Steve I think he had some relatives in England during that period, and he's done some walking tours of some of their flight paths.
Oh, cool. That one I would like to take. Now, if there's nothing else I want out, the next meeting I'm scheduling for right now, March 15th, which is Saturday, the same time. I don't have a speaker yet, but I've been talking with several people on different topics. I'm trying to find some topics that hadn't been covered before, or at least not in a while. So Shelley with the newsletter will keep everybody up to date. She will post the video for today's meeting on YouTube. I'm recording this, and as soon as the recording is done, I will send her a link to it so she'll have it. And then when she has a chance, she'll be putting it up on our YouTube channel. Had pretty good attendance today. Thank you all for coming. This was cool. I like seeing all the photos and photos of places I've not seen before, and some photos 1914 I haven't seen at all. So thank you, Steve. I'm glad it worked out. And thank you all for attending. And I will see you all in March. Take care.